Good, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for NJLAP and the New Jersey State Bar Association's Wellbeing Week in the Law programming. And today is day 1 of 5, and Wellbeing in the Law week is separated into 5 different themes, and Monday is physical well-being, Tuesday is spiritual well-being, Wednesday is occupational well-being, Thursday is social well-being, and Friday is emotional well-being. And we have some amazing panelists for each of Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday: physical, spiritual, social, and emotional well-being. And we have an exciting event planned for Wednesday, occupational well-being, and that is we will be having a networking breakfast at the Law Center. And I would encourage all of you in the room today to come join us, sign up online as you did for today's event, and tell all your friends. We're going to be serving breakfast and having some fun networking exercises and activities. So come join us, practice getting together with other people, and we look forward to seeing you. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce today's panel, and today's theme again is physical well-being. And we have 3 esteemed panelists with us today. First is attorney John Keefe, Jr. of Wilentz, Goldman, and Spitzer. He is a shareholder at Wilentz and a member of the management committee, resident at its Red Bank office. Prior to joining Wilentz, he served as the managing shareholder of the Keefe law firm, a litigation boutique he founded in 2005, known for achieving top verdicts and settlements in complex litigation. He's also former president of the New Jersey State Bar Association, and as president, his significant achievements included building diversity and inclusion in the legal profession, launching a mentoring program for new lawyers, and leveling the malpractice playing field. He's a certified civil trial attorney and has devoted much of his civil trial practice throughout the state and federal courts in New Jersey, specializing in negligence and product liability, as well as complex mass tort litigation. So I look forward to hearing from him. Also with us today, we have Nicole Persky, who is the office administrator at NJLAP and a former bankruptcy attorney with an amazing mix of experiences, including, thankfully for us, graduate level accounting experience. And last, but by no means least, Noreen Braman, who is our communications manager here at NJLAP. Not only is she our communications manager, she's also a certified laughter yoga leader and had her mind blown at a conference called Can Humor Save the World? And she's also has certification in laughter wellness and has studied the science of happiness, and is a member of the Association for Applied Therapeutic Humor. So I look forward to hearing from both Nicole and Noreen too on their takes on physical well-being. And I would encourage folks throughout the presentation to send questions to the panelists in the Q&A section, and again, to join us for events later in the week. Thank you so much. And I'll turn it over to today's moderator / leader, Nicole Persky.
Hi, thank you. We're going to start with John Keefe, Jr. Thank you.
Morning. Good morning, everyone. Let's see. Make sure this is all working. So I tended to wander back and forth about discussing physical challenges in the law because you certainly don't want to come across as preachy, and you certainly don't want to come across as having all the answers in matters such as this. And that really, kind of tied in nicely to the two words that I'd like to discuss this morning, which is fear and gratitude as it relates to physical challenges that we all invariably will face. As I thought of the topic, physical challenges, I'm reminded of these two words, fear and gratitude, and also all that those two words encompass. And in thinking about today, we tend to think maybe about buzzwords that we hear in today's vernacular, in today's media, in the printed word. We hear words like manifesting, and we hear different spins on these two concepts of positivity, of fear and gratitude, all these mind-body issues that we're going to be talking about not only today, but throughout the week. But I'm reminded that these concepts are not new. These are really old concepts going back to Plato, who discussed, way back when, that the mind and the body together is what gives us our health and well-being. And when I think about physical challenges, at least as it presented to me, I can't separate physical challenges. And I know we're going to probably overlap in the next day or two or three between the physical and the mental, between the mind, body, and overall health. So as we look at overall physical challenges, I thought again to myself, what really is health? What is health? I think health is a multifactorial definition that we all bring our own sense of who we are to that definition. But it invariably comes down to a balance between your physical health, how you're feeling that day physically, comes into your environment. Am I hot or cold where I stand here? My emotional and my psychological well-being, maybe even my nutritional well-being. What did I eat yesterday? What am I eating today? How does it make me feel? My exercise, whether I'm doing it consistently, and I think sleep. I'm going to touch on sleep when we get to physical challenges. So the question really is, what happens when any of those parts of our health are interrupted? When any one of those things are out of balance, when we have physical challenges, what do we do? How do we deal with it? So it seems to me that, at least for me, the first issue when confronted with a physical health challenge, as I had back, I think I misspoke to Nicole and to Noreen. I thought it was 2018. It was really 2017 is when I hit my, as I call it now, my speed bump. And the first thing that comes to mind when you're diagnosed with a health problem is, at least for me, was fear. And I realized that fear was not something new to me, shouldn't be something new to any of us. I thought, where else have I had fear? I've had fear when I was in grade school, speaking in class. Believe it or not, some of you who know me would be surprised to know that that I was shy, and it was not easy for me to get up and speak. And here I am many years later, 30 years being a trial lawyer. But that's fear. Fear of playing sports, which was innate to me and which I love, but still fear playing before a packed gym. Fear of getting hurt. Fear of things such as getting married. Not the fear of whether you're in love, but the fear of, can you do it? Or will you be good enough? Same thing for the fear of being a father. You have the elation of being a parent, but the fear of, can you do it? The fear of trying my first and my most recent case. Fear of a career change, which I recently went through. And that was certainly quite an experience. And then fear of a real serious physical challenge, the fear of being diagnosed with cancer, and the fears that go with that. And so those physical challenges, I can take you back to May of 2017, not feeling very well and not knowing why, not getting good answers. And then boom, you get diagnosed. And oh boy, is the two words that come to my mind, like changes your world, rocks your world. And how do you process that physical challenge? I suspect that whether it's an addiction issue that you've had to confront yourself, I suspect that it's a cancer diagnosis, either of you or a loved one. That's a physical manifestation and a physical challenge to your health that is going to affect you, your loved ones, your work colleagues, everybody that's in your circle. And as I look back on that, I think probably my biggest regret is the pain and the worry that it caused the people closest to me. Certainly my wife, certainly my kids. But then, you've got to let that go. And you got to let go this whole notion of blame and guilt and the whole process of, why me, why not somebody else? And why does my wife have to worry about this? She shouldn't have to. My kids should be able to grow up without worrying about, a bad diagnosis of their father. So I think when we talk about this interruption of our generally good health, and I say generally because if there's one thing that's consistent and there's one thing that's constant, it's the fact that we are living in a changing world daily. It's not a 2022 thing. It's an everyday thing. And just like fear, and we're going to get to gratitude, it comes and it goes. Before every dawn is the darkness, and every darkness has a dawn, and every part of our lives is really just a chapter. So in how do we approach physical well-being in our lives and in our practice, I think that's an important perspective. And so I thought, I was going to go certainly in one direction today. And I heard this morning and over the weekend, Maria Shriver's commencement speech at the University of Michigan. And I thought it really dovetailed nicely into what we can consider when faced with physical challenges. And she talked about fear and overcoming fear. And I don't think you can get to gratitude or you can get to healing until you've at least acknowledged. And in some way, and everybody does it differently. I'm very, very sure of that. Everybody deals with it differently. But fear is part of life, and fear is part of humanity. And it's this idea of no matter how accomplished somebody is, I don't care if it's Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, your favorite athlete, the president of the United States, maybe somebody in your family, maybe a parent who you think is just perfect, or a rock star. Self-doubt exists in everyone. And it should be no surprise that there should be doubt when you're confronted either as an athlete with an injury or a diagnosis of a health scare, that self-doubt is gonna creep in. And I think some of the great lines that Maria Shriver offered to the graduates at the University of Michigan, she started off by talking about that she thought she was too busy to give the speech. I've got conflicts, I've got issues. I've got to be certain places. I don't think I can do it. But what she really acknowledged was that she was masking a busy schedule with fear. And I think the same thing is true when you deal with physical problems, emotional problems in your life that affects our careers. We mask certain things before getting to the reality of we're really afraid of something. And so Maria Shriver said, and I thought it was brilliant, that fear is your great teacher and your lifelong companion. It's your companion, it's not your enemy. And she talked about things that have helped her, which were things that I wrote down in when I was thinking about gratitude. What helped her with her fear was meditation, writing, and her faith. She also went into that therapy is not for the weak, but it's a safe space for the strong. And in talking to the graduates about fear, she said, congratulations, it's okay to be afraid, because to be afraid is to be human. It means you're awake. It means you're aware. And last, I thought that was really poignant, at least for today, was there's no vaccine for fear, but the cure is in you and how you approach it. And I think there are no answers. Sometimes when you have a physical problem, which is what we're here to talk about, you go to a doctor. If you have a sore throat, you deal with it. If you have a cold, you deal with it. If you have a cancer diagnosis, they have surgery, they have chemotherapy, they have radiation. But what they don't really do, and my friends at the University of Pennsylvania, who I give great respect to and thank them for everything they did for me and so many other people down there every day, they really could use a little work on crossing the Western and the Eastern theories of healing, because I could tell you when it was all said and done, I was at least in remission from cancer, but I felt like roadkill. The rest of me was a complete mess. So what Maria Shriver talked about in transitioning fear to positivity is that you can take action about your thoughts, about your words, and about your deeds. And that every life, all of us, our life has multiple chapters. It's not a book with just one big chapter. And I think that's a good jumping off point to gratitude. When I was the first couple of days after being diagnosed, of course I was scared. I mean, who wouldn't be? And I can't sit here and tell you that somebody sat down, whether you've had this diagnosis, a different diagnosis, an ailment of you or a loved one, whether there's a playbook. I certainly wasn't given one. And I suspect that there is no playbook for addiction. There's no real playbook for if you do these three things, you'll be fine. I know people, good people, who've had very bad results. And it's not to say that they weren't positive or wanted to be positive. So I'm not sure, as I started this, that there's this great elixir or this great thing to really tell you about what to do if you have a physical challenge that's going to turn your life upside down. But I am confident that the mind and the body cannot be separated. And I'm confident that as I think about gratitude, and even the things that Maria Shriver talked about in how she manages her fear, that some of these concepts are really the same. So practicing gratitude, I really believe that so many things in life could be worse than you think they are. And once you get to the appreciation that something could always be worse, no matter how bad it seems, that you're beginning to put some balance back in your life and you're beginning to think about gratitude. I don't know that I realized that many of what I call my classmates, the people that were traveling the journey with me, the people that I would see every day, every week, either in the chemo sessions or the radiation sessions particularly, I don't know that they felt the same way that I did. But I did believe that there was a relationship between our minds and our bodies. And at different points in time, we needed to let off stress, the stress of, is this working? The stress of, am I going to get better? With thinking outside of yourself. And in thinking about it, I'm not sure that I would have called it gratitude at that point in time. Now I can say reflectively that there were forms of gratitude even when I saw people probably at their worst physical moments in their lives. A bad physical moment may mean that you're experiencing mental challenges, but it doesn't necessarily equate. I saw people who were clearly at their worst physically, who really offered strength to those of us around them because they did a really good job of manifesting, and there's that modern day word, manifesting this sense of peace and serenity. So I think that gratitude, can really help reduce stress, being mindful of that this is a chapter, a period, a point in time. It's not an end, and it doesn't need to be an end. I think it can affect, how you feel. I think it can affect, for example, there's been studies that positivity and gratitude can affect and reduce your depression. It can affect even lower blood pressure, decrease inflammation, and improve immunity. Those are all scientific studies that I'll leave for someone else. But I do believe that there is some interrelationship. I heard a long time ago that you can do good and do well, and they're not mutually exclusive. The same thing is mind and body. They're not mutually exclusive. They're interrelated. So although today's topic is about physical challenges that we face, the focus is to, how do I get balance back in my life? How do I feel better physically? Can I feel better physically? And as a result of this process, am I going to be better, spiritually, emotionally? Am I going to be just better off? And I think, when it comes to gratitude, which is really the overarching theme as I look at, I was trying to think of other people's physical challenges, overcoming them. I keep going back to the theme, overcoming physical challenges. There are so many things of people to our left and to our right that they are facing. And maybe it's a physical challenge of a loved one that they're caring for. Maybe it's their own physical challenge. There are cancer survivors among us, and there are people that we know who did not survive cancer. One of the things that I thought was really, really important was to, not dwell, at least for me, on whether my cancer was going to kill me. That was just, I don't sit here and pretend to tell you that I had that one right. I was lucky. I was fortunate that I was able to not dwell on that. I think that's a matter of luck, quite frankly, but I didn't dwell on it. To continue to not dwell on it, I go back to, how did I get through it? How do you perhaps want to, get through whatever it is that's challenging you in your life? It is the moments to think about. I thought about all the stuff that my kids were doing without me. And I could be angry about that. I was really upset, quite frankly, that I couldn't take my oldest son to college. That was brutal. But what I took from it was that my second son stepped up, helped pack him up when I was too weak to even get off the couch. And I could choose to be upset, which I was, but to focus on the second son doing that for the first. So that was a form of just me kind of getting through what was really bothering me, namely I was too weak to get my first son off to college, which everybody thinks about, dreams of, and that was a form of gratitude. And I was able to, and I never went to a school for meditation. You know, when you have time alone, and there's plenty of time alone to think about meditation, it's sometimes finding your own voice to someone else to listen to, or even maybe listen to nothing. That can be a form of it. We talk about gratitude walks. Well, I have turned into one heck of a walker. I'm still, I gained my weight back, so it's not like I've walked to keep my weight off, but I have taken walks, which has been really helpful to my physical well-being, but more importantly for my head. And that was something that was recommended to me by my radiation oncologist, and something that my then youngest son took very seriously. He walked me like the family dog. When they said, well, your dad's not moving too much. First, when I got done treatment, it was a walk to the mailbox. It was a walk to the end of the street. Within a couple of months, we were doing 5 miles. Now, the point of that is that these physical challenges can be met when you've got not only yourself, but other people helping you mentally. And I think that was a real, focus for me about, in maybe a different way of defining gratitude. But I was able to carve out this time and to kind of re-achieve a balance that got so thrown out of whack. I mean, look, I was always a reasonably grateful person before I got sick. I was a year away from the state bar presidency. Things were going well. And then boom, you get hit with a challenge like this. And it is sobering, it is scary, and I was lucky. But what I came through with it was a really acute sense of, I think, appreciating certain things that made the recovery from my physical problems. And that took time. But I think taking care of my head and my spirit was essential to beginning to get my physical well-being back. So I don't want to kind of go on too long. I know that we're kind of up against the time. And I would just say this, at the risk of being the preachy volunteer speaker that I didn't want to be, and I want to be very careful here. There's a couple things about gratitude. If you think it, say it. If you think a good thought, share it. And I would also say that it is okay to identify that for everything that you want to embrace that's positive in your life, whether you're coming through an addiction or an injury, car accident, cancer, a change in your family situation, it's really easy to say generally, oh, embrace the positive in your life. It's important to say it, but there's a flip side to that coin that's really difficult, and that is to shed the negativity in your life. That's a challenge. That's a real challenge. It's easy enough to embrace the positive, but sometimes to do that, you've got to move through it so that you can be your best person, both physically and emotionally. So I will close with that I think that when we hit these marks in our lives that tears you up and tears up your family, that it's just a chapter. To acknowledge that fear is part of it. Don't run away from it. Don't hide from it. And try to find something that'll help you work through it. So I hope that I wasn't what I feared I would be in the beginning, too preachy. I hope it was something that you can apply to help you in your own way. So thanks very much.
Wow, thank you, John. That was great. Really appreciate you speaking, and really great. It's really hard to follow that, got to be honest. Fear and gratitude also, play a big part in my story. A lot of the topics you hit upon do. My name again, Nicole Persky, and I'm an individual in recovery, long-term recovery from substance use disorder. I formerly was a bankruptcy attorney, and now I'm the office manager at the New Jersey Lawyers Assistance Program. And today, the part of my story I was going to focus on is really like getting healthy after coming into recovery. One of the things that tends to happen when people come into recovery, and that happened to me, is that when you're focusing on staying alive, to be frank about it, some of the other things kind of fall to the wayside. And so one of the things that was important for me was to kind of keep a next thing next mindset. And instead of looking at the big picture, to look at kind of the small picture. And I guess even the way I'm going to kind of talk about this is more of a micro perspective, and kind of from my own personal perspective. So the dust cleared a bit, and I'm in recovery. I came in rough shape, physically, emotionally, financially, exploded my career, you name it. I'm in a mess of it. We could talk for at least an hour about all of that. But I was very fortunate, and I'm very grateful to have found recovery. And there was a correlation, a really big correlation between the tools that helped me to recover from addiction and the tools that helped me to get my physical health back in order. And a correlation between the habits, the mindsets, the behaviors, and mindset of gratitude, for example, is one of the big ones. And overcoming unhealthy patterns, you have to deal with cravings, which is another thing you have to deal with in recovery, and developing healthy habits. John had touched upon sleep. Sleep was a big thing. When I first came into recovery, I had to completely adjust my sleep pattern. Going to bed early was really important, because nighttime doesn't tend to be the best time. Like, there's not really a good reason to be up at 2 a.m. First I was working really late into the night, but good sleep hygiene, right? You think you're burning the midnight oil, but you can't burn the candle at both ends. And that's really how things started spiraling for me. And so when I was getting my health back together, it became really important to focus on getting enough sleep, and I probably will sound a little preachy about some of this stuff, and I apologize in advance. So I'm also in May of 2017, when I start my story. Fast forward a tiny bit, and I have my daughter, and this really changes my perspective on life a lot. Having a small human that looks up to me and depends on me as a role model changed how I looked at things. And the first couple of years with her, I just really focused on getting myself on solid footing. It seemed more important to me to be there for her, be there for myself, and to just keep putting one foot in front of the other, than to focus on taking care of everything all at once. And the first thing I focused on, so now I still have the post-pregnancy weight, 60 pounds, and I'm smoking. And I picked up the habit in my 20s. I don't know what possessed me to do that, but I did. And replacing also one addiction for another, I'm eating tons of sugar. So I dealt with the smoking first, and I tried doing the whole having a couple less cigarettes a day. That didn't work. What worked for me not recommending it. I actually was hypnotized. I don't know if it was the placebo effect. I don't know what it was, but it did work. And I quit smoking in November of 2019, right before COVID. Then one of the big things I did, and probably the biggest thing I did, was I increased the amount of support meetings I went to. I started, because of the availability of Zoom and being able to attend support meetings and go to LCL meetings, which are Lawyers Concerned for Lawyers meetings for anyone who's not familiar. They're available online, and I was able to go without worrying about childcare. You know, the fear of going into a room full of attorneys when I'm not practicing, and you know, that kind of thing. Able to go online, sign in, and you know, when it's done, I'm still in my home. So I was able to attend those and to begin attending meetings daily. I started doing that, and as far as kind of getting my health in order, I didn't walk into the forest overnight, so I'm not getting out of it overnight. I started making small changes, walking like maybe 2 miles a day. I would take walks with my daughter. She enjoyed going out. I would take walks with friends to try and get some time with them, or walk with my network, spend some time talking. Combining activities was like a good way for me to like sneak a walk and make a phone call. You know, just kind of get the physical activity in where I could. So this is like the mindset of progress, not perfection. Now, COVID also made me take this, you know, health thing more seriously, in the sense that there was, you know, comorbidities and issues having to do with people's health. And it became more important to me to have myself more physically in check as a result of that as well. The biggest thing I could say I did was be a good teammate for myself. I've heard it before, but don't say anything to yourself you wouldn't say to a good friend. It's the positivity thing. If you wouldn't say it to your best friend, don't say it to yourself. Another thing for meditation, what works for me, and don't know if it works for anybody else, but I like the binaural beats on YouTube. I just like basically go on YouTube, look them up, and whichever ones I find to be appealing, I listen to. As far as eating healthy, I focused on the classics. I, you know, first went to the endocrinologist and all that fun stuff, went to the doctor, and then I just went with like the old school classic eating healthy kind of plan. You know, the lean proteins, the veggies, the fruits, cut sugars, which was challenging at first, but sugar makes you crave more sugar. So I didn't even put like fake sugar in my coffee, and I found that helped a lot, especially not having sugar in the morning. Took about probably a year and a half for me to see, you know, my full results, but you know, anything worth it is often hard work and often takes time, and it's the, you know, one thing at a time sort of thing. I also found that I had to be flexible with myself when I get into a state of perfectionism. That doesn't tend to bode well for me. I've done the whole go to the gym twice a day thing, and that's great until it isn't. Then I miss a few days and I don't go anymore, or it becomes, you know, something where then I'm addicted to going to the gym. So I try to be flexible about, you know, how I'm doing things, and allow a reasonable amount of flexibility. You know, taking vitamins, doing all that kind of stuff. And this stuff sounds silly, but you know, being healthy really is so important, right? And people knock on technology, but I try to really use it to my advantage. You know, pretty much every pharmacy delivers. I order groceries. I have like a healthy grocery delivery place I do. I also do like a lot of the local grocery stores will like deliver your groceries to your car, and you you can order the same stuff or not, and it saves a lot of time. I'm a big fan of all of that. And by getting myself, into recovery, I was able to get enough mental clarity to take care of my physical health by getting myself physically healthy and focusing on my recovery, of my physical health. I don't know if I'm making sense. I was able to transition into working full time and while parenting a child under 5. And I've been commuting, which I'm not going to have to do anymore, which is awesome. But I, tried to also look at the time commuting as a time to relax. It's right, the mind-body connection. A lot of it's perspective, as with anything. So I've tried to not allow myself, to the extent possible, to get stressed about things, right? Take a perspective of gratitude. I try to do physically active things with my daughter, take her to the park, the boardwalk, have her involved in sports, which is something I didn't do growing up. So I'm very good at them. All about combining the activities, connecting with a friend, going for a walk, even running errands. And physical activities, any kind of moving around, anything above what you normally do. Like, I even try to talk myself into cleaning being a physical activity because I really don't like doing that. Eating healthier is just any improvement in how you're eating. So, putting less salt on something can be eating it healthier. And getting physically healthy improved my mood, improved my outlook on life, my ability to do anything I need to do or want to do, including, working here as the latest addition. And, I love what we do, and it's important for me to be, as clear of mind and as possible, and the mind-body connection is very important. So it requires well-being in all dimensions, and that's what I got. And up next, we have Noreen Braman.
First, I would really like to say thank you to both John and Nicole for being willing to talk about their own personal stories and their journeys to both physical and mental wellness. And we know, as John said, it's really hard to separate the two, but it is important to know the differences between them. And I have a couple of PowerPoint slides here that I'm going to share with you. And we're going to talk a little bit about laughter and physical well-being. The reality is that laughter can actually have effects on every single one of those 6 elements of lawyer well-being that we're discussing this week. And I'm not saying that to like blow myself up, but I'll be showing you some things that actually help us learn that. So first of all, the things we need to know are, we hear wellness and well-being being used often, and they kind of mash together and seem to mean the same thing. So there are some subtle but important differences. And what I've done is I've used some government definitions, and this is from the National Institute of Health, that wellness has several dimensions, including emotional, coping effectively with life and creating satisfying relationships, and the physical, recognizing the need for physical activity, healthy foods, and sleep. So you might think that's the only definition we need. Unfortunately, in many places, wellness has only been focusing on physical wellness. You'll have a program from your employer, maybe. They'll pay for you to go to the gym. They'll take your blood pressure. They'll check your cholesterol. So bringing in well-being into this as a separate entity is really important, because well-being includes the presence of positive emotions and moods, including contentment and happiness, the absence of negative emotions, as John spoke about, depression, anxiety, but most important is satisfaction with life, fulfillment, and positive functioning. And here is really an important thing to remember. Wellness, as in health and physical health, is fleeting. You may have, as I do, a chronic condition. So wellness day to day is not always assured to me. However, well-being you can have on a day-to-day basis if you practice some of the things that John and Nicole both talked about. And I'm going to also explain how laughter plays into that. And having a high level of well-being helps you build your resilience for when life is not so funny. So the science of laughter tells us that laughter existed before humans had language. This is such an important part of human existence. It's based back in your primitive brain. And as the brain develops from front to back, laughter is something you encounter at a very young age. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But imagine two groups of Neanderthals meeting each other in the rainforest. They have no language. They use some signs, something to try and get along with each other. And very often misinterpretation could end up in a fight. So the human brain developed this weird kind of thing with the face, making this expression with your teeth and your lips, a smile, and also adding onto it some kind of funny sound, ha, hoo, ha, he. And this is what started off as the origins of laughter. Nothing was funny. No one was telling jokes. It was to show I'm friendly, we can get along, and we can get over this barrier we have that we can't communicate with each other. So this is so important that there is a diabolical reason why babies laugh. Now, when I was a young mother and I told the doctor, wow, my baby is smiling and laughing already, she's only 3 months old. And the doctor would always say, oh, that's gas. Well, it may be gas sometimes, but we now know through functional MRIs that babies actually laugh because they are using that primitive social bonding technique to bond with humans, other humans, to make sure that they're cared for, loved, changed, taken care of, increasing their chances of survival. We now know from a functional MRI that if you're holding a baby, looking in the baby's eyes, smiling, maybe laughing, that your brain waves and the baby's brain waves sync together. And you think, of course, I'm the adult. I'm teaching the baby. And that's not true at all. The baby is syncing your brain waves to itself. Again, to pull you in, to feel bonded, to feel responsible, to ensure that baby's survival. That's why I say it's kind of like baby mind control, very diabolical. So there are 3 laughter well-being pioneers that we often talk about in the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. And the first is Norman Cousins, who was the editor of the Saturday Evening Post. For the young people in the audience, that was like a paper thing that people would get and read from it. They weren't able to read it on their telephones. And he wrote a book called Anatomy of an Illness based on the fact that he had a doctor who said to him, I'm sorry, Norm, you have this XYZ thing wrong with you, and you need to get your affairs in order. And he decided if that's the way he was going to go out, he was going to go out laughing. He asked all his friends in Hollywood to bring him funny movies, comedy shows, things like that. And he found that 20 minutes of hearty belly laughing gave him enough pain relief to have 4 hours of unbroken sleep. He eventually did not die of whatever this was he was diagnosed with, lived about 40 years more than that. And his book started the whole science of studying laughter as an absolutely necessary survival mechanism for humans. Many of you know Dr. Patch Adams, as he was played by Robin Williams in the movie. He actually runs the Gesundheit Institute in Virginia, and every year he takes willing volunteers with him around the world, not only to do medical work for those who can't afford it, but to bring laughter to them, because as he has found out, using laughter in medicine raises the outcomes. Cancer Treatment Centers of America, who at one time gave me a scholarship to go to AATH, has this right in their buildings. They have a room where you can go in and have laughter therapy, do laughter yoga, other laughter things, because they know it helps outcomes because you're taking care of your well-being. And then there was Dr. Kataria. Let's bring him back. Dr. Kataria is a doctor in India, and he studied Dr. Adams and Norman Cousins and decided, if I can get my patients to laugh, it can help them physically and mentally to have better mental and physical health. So he decided to take all his friends into the park in Mumbai, and we're going to tell jokes to each other. So they told jokes to each other before going to work in the morning, and everyone laughed and they felt really good. And they reported to the doctor, you know, I think I had a better day because I laughed this morning. Well, the second day wasn't so funny. Third day, maybe they were telling puns. By the fourth day, they might have been really telling really risque stories. And Dr. Kataria realized that I can't maintain this joke-telling comedy thing every single day in the park. And he developed what is now called laughter yoga, not because there's posing or mats, but because pranayamic breathing is used in a way to simulate and stimulate laughter without relying on jokes and comedy. So the advantages of laughter are it benefits both your physical and psychological health. And even pretend laughter convinces your brain to release feel-good endorphins. And laughter will boost your resilience for those times when life is not so fun. There was a study done not too long ago, and it's still being parsed out as to whether the exact numbers are correct, that for every negative thing you have happen in your life, you need at least 3 positive things to balance that out for your well-being. And this is why sometimes we feel like, I can't get out from under. The hits keep coming. It's one thing and one thing and one thing, and you just can't seem to get out of it because the unpleasant, unhappy things have a tendency to have more weight than the more pleasant things. My favorite source for medical information is the Mayo Clinic. And here they break laughter down into both physical and psychological benefits. Laughter enhances your intake of oxygen-rich air, stimulates your heart, your lungs, and your muscles, and increases the endorphins released by your brain. It relieves pain. We are finding that laughter may ease pain by causing the body to produce its own natural painkillers. It also is a cross-brain activity, just like running, which often can push stress, pain, and other things to the back of the brain where it's not so prominent. Laughter can soothe tension by stimulating circulation, easing muscle relaxation, and help reduce the physical symptoms of stress, which affect your mental health. So it also psychologically can improve your mood, increase personal satisfaction, and on both sides of the equation, it improves your immune system. Negative thoughts do manifest into chemical reactions that can affect your body by bringing more stress. That's the famous now level of cortisol that you're having. So positive thoughts can actually release neuropeptides that help fight stress and potentially more serious illnesses. And the thing is that, again, we're talking about building up your well-being because you may not have wellness, but how you're dealing with it is going to help your overall attitude and your feelings, and in a lot of ways, help reduce pain. The American Heart Association actually has a part on its website where it talks about laughter and the heart. The physical manifestation of laughing gives your heart an exercise. Now, we know that in some exercise, we talk about being on doing cardio. Laughter probably is not cardio for most of us, but it is aerobic. We are breathing deeply, we are exhaling and inhaling, Sometimes we actually lose our breath, but again, the heart rate goes up. And I often challenge people when I'm in a laughter yoga session to take their pulse, because even seated, you can see a 20 to 30 point rise in your heart rate just from doing laughter. And I just wanted to show you that the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor, the people who are serious about laughter, they encourage their members to do studies. And one of the ones that was done was adding therapeutic laughter to a cognitive behavioral therapy, mind-based, and rehabilitation, body-based, program for chronic pain patients. And these things are still being studied, but the pain psychologist, after the first session, remarked about one person, "I have never seen that patient so animated." And he was referring to a chronic pain patient who suffered from clinical depression and normally presented a flat affect. And that content has now been offered regularly since May 2013 in their chronic pain clinic. So I like to leave you with a very quick Laughter for the Health of It exercise sample. And remember, it requires you to breathe using yoga pranayama and trying to laugh, not because any comedy or jokes, but because you're going to do it as an exercise, and moving a little bit. And as we're seated in our chairs, the amount of movement we're doing may just be raising our hands or something like that. But the first thing we have to know is what a pranayama breath is. It is in through your nose, and join me with this. In through your nose, then out through your mouth forcefully. Now, the way you do a pranayama breath and laugh is you breathe in through your nose, and when you breathe out through your mouth, you forcefully say one of the laughter sounds. Ha ha ha, ho ho ho, he he he. Let's try that. Breathe in through your nose and laugh out your mouth. Ho 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 ho. All right, that is a laughter sound. Your brain says, okay, you're laughing, release some endorphins. So let's just try that one more time with a different laughter sound. Breathe in through your nose, laugh out. Again, let's try it with the third laughter sound, which is he he he. Breathe in through your nose and laugh out. So the very simple way you can do this in your law practice without everyone up and down the hall looking at you like we're very serious people doing very serious work. There's no laughter in this office. You can close your office door. You can put your hand in front of your mouth like this, and you can do a very quick laughter exercise in silence. You must feel your breath hitting your hand, and that tells you that you're breathing. So, and we use the words ho, 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 ha, 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 he, he, and we do this. Join along with me. Ready? Breathe in. You do this for a minute or 2 minutes. You are raising your heart rate. You are sending endorphins throughout your body. It's especially great when you've been sitting at your desk all day over something that's mentally taxing you, and now you have to get up and go to a meeting, or you have to go to court, and you need to be on your A game. You do a little bit of this, it really refreshes you. And if you're more interested in this kind of thing, I encourage you to look up laughter yoga and laughter wellness on Google, and you will find programs and videos all over the place that can help you do this for your body. And I hope that is helpful to you. And this again is a quote from Norman Cousin. Laughter is a powerful way to tag positive emotions. Thank you.
Thank you, Noreen, and John and Nicole, if you could just turn on your camera one more time if you're close to it, so I can thank you and look at you. Thank you so much for joining us today and for your wonderful shares and for being vulnerable with us. You helped me a lot today, and was really glad to hear Noreen's presentation because as anyone who knows me knows, I crack myself up. So good to know that it has a positive health effect. So if you have any questions about anything you heard today, you know how to reach us. And please feel free to reach out and please join us for tomorrow's webinar about spiritual well-being and also for the breakfast on Wednesday from 8:30 to 10:30 and the webinars on Thursday and Friday. We have some more really great panelists joining us. And on behalf of NJLAP and the NJSBA Wellbeing Committee, I want to thank you for joining us today or for listening to this recording online. We really appreciate your taking the time out of your schedule.